and welcome to another Kidlit Chat. I have Charlotte Wenger with me here. Hey, Charlotte, how are you?
Hello. I'm
Thank you so
great.
much.
How are you?
Super great. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Charlotte, you've been on both sides of the publishing process. So, for people they don't know, you've been an editor and agent. Feels like it's the same to them, but it's different. So, what made you want to become an agent after being an editor? And what's kind of the
Yeah,
difference?
yeah. So, I really love that editors appreciate that I used to be an editor, and can kind of understand being on that side of the desk, so to speak. But two things that I really love about like being an agent that come from my editorial background is that I love that I still get to do some of that editorial work with my clients because I do consider myself an editorial agent and do a fair bit of work with my clients at various stages of their projects. So I love still being able to do that, and even at like an earlier stage than when I was actually like an acquiring editor. Um, and then I also love building long-term relationships with my clients and with editors. I mean, some of my favorite projects that I worked on as an editor were when I got to work with like the same author on multiple books or that kind of thing. And so I just really love building that long-term relationship with people because I do see, I mean, publishing is a long game anyway. So I I really take on clients that I feel like I can support long term and want to build that kind of connection and relationship in their career in the long term. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so fun. Well, and it's, I don't know. I feel like there'd be no way you couldn't be an editorial agent, like you just be like, so
yeah,
many doors.
I can't take that part out of me or turn it
No
off.
way. But that's where it's fun. So, what has been some of your favorite books that you've worked on, published or not?
Yeah. So, the one that came to mind for me that I wanted to mention
Yeah.
was one that's coming out later this year, with Little B, by my client Melissa Coffey. This is an
Huge.
FNG, so it's an
Yeah.
advanced copy.
Fragopolis.
Yeah, so it's called Fridgopolis, and it's my client is Melissa Coffey, the author, and it's illustrated by Josh Cleland, and
Cute.
it's it is it tackles the big issue of food waste, but in a super fun and accessible way. And has just, I am a huge fan of wordplay, and it has great wordplay throughout. And I mean, Josh does a great job of with the illustrations. So, and it includes just like a little bit of back matter at the end about like food waste and how we can combat it. Because it's crazy. Like it lists specifics about I don't know how much food we just throw out because it goes bad in our fridge and that kind of thing. So it's super fun, but also tackles like a really important issue. So that's a favorite that I've loved from the start. It actually like sold very quickly. So it's a favorite in that way too, because usually that doesn't happen in publishing. So yeah, that's one that I wanted to mention.
I love it. Oh, when did you say that comes out?
I should have it off the top of my head. I believe it's August, but yeah,
Of this
later
year?
this year. Yeah,
Cool.
later this year.
Well, that's exciting. That it looks super fun, and I love all the
Great.
colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're also on the board at the Mazza Museum. So that celebrates original illustration in picture books, which obviously those were gorgeous. There's so many gorgeous illustrators and book illustrations. So tell us about the different types of things that you've seen while working through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because I mean, I've obviously been there and they have somewhat limited space in terms of like what they can actually have on display in their collection. So most of their collection is actually in a vault, like a climate controlled vault. And I've been able to kind of go behind the scenes and go in there and see work in there. I mean, they have pieces from Brian Collier, Molly Idle, Chris Rashka, and so it's so special to be able to see like these original pieces. And the way they display them too is they always have the picture book there as well. So you can see the original piece like hanging on the wall, but then you can also see it in picture book form. And that's one of my favorite things about how they do their displays and exhibits, because I think it's a really important like and really special thing to be able to see like the original versus how it ends up, because it was really actually created for that book form. And they did a really cool exhibit where they took like casts of artists, some of the illustrators like hands, and have those on display like with right next to the art as well. So not only can you see the original art and the picture book, but you get to see this cast of the artist's hand who made it. So it just adds that like element of just personal connection and kind of nod to like the talent and behind the art too. So
I love it. That sounds so cool. And that's in New York, right?
It's actually in Ohio. So it's like in a small town in Ohio. And so I think it's often people feel like it's out of the way or they have to make a special trip to get there. But I would definitely say it's worth it. Yeah, I would encourage people to go and check it out.
A little family trip.
Yeah. And they've just built a new STEAM wing that's super interactive and has all kinds of kind of creative STEAM building things that kids can do when they go and visit the museum. So
that's so cool. That sounds awesome. So you kind of mentioned some of the illustrators at the museum, but overall, like what have you been seeing that are some of like your favorite illustrators and picture books?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to pick favorites. I do, but I would say one of my very like longtime favorites is Oliver Jeffers, because I feel like he really like walks that line of being both quirky and commercial, which is something I really enjoy in both like writing and illustrating in picture books. And one of my favorites of his is actually, I think, one of his lesser known picture books, which is The Heart and the Bottle. So if you're not familiar with this one, I mean, he has a lot of books, but I would definitely recommend checking it out because it's quirky, but it's also super, super like tug at the heart. But I also did want to give a shout out to one of my author illustrators and her book Blob, so Ann Appert. And this is her author illustrator debut. She has another one that she's working on right now. But I'm of course a fan of Ann, and Blob is just such a lovable character, and the book and the story is just really funny and interactive and just also super relatable for kids. And so yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Ian.
Love it. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Are there any other really exciting books you have on the docket? We've mentioned a couple, so we have Fridgeopolis.
Yeah. So one other I wanted to kind of call out was another author illustrator client, Liz Goulet Dubois, and this is like an early reader graphic novel kind of style book with source books, and I feel like I'm really excited about it right now, especially because it came out recently and it's also just such a great spring book. And it doesn't like mention Easter or anything, but I do think it is an excellent Easter book with Easter coming up. So, and it's the first in a series, the Duck and Cluck series.
And that's an early reader, it looks like, right?
Yeah, so it's let me see if I can like kind of show you a couple spreads without giving too much away. So yeah, you can see it's kind of like graphic early reader.
Oh yeah.
But then there's also spreads that are kind of like full page, don't have like a panel or anything. So super fun. So she's working, I think she's turned in like the finished art now for the second one. And
yeah. And that's an author illustrator, right?
Yeah, author illustrator as well.
Love it. That looks so pretty. Super fun.
And it's just got such a fun little twist ending to it.
Ooh, I'll have to check it out. Awesome. Well, you guys can learn all about Charlotte and all of her awesome clients and all of her awesome books and find the links to all the books she just mentioned at charlottewenger.com. So Charlotte, thanks so much. This has been so fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.